Welcome to Office Hours. I am Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr CRM team. What is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors, and our objective is simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? Now, each episode, we tackle a couple of cool items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives a little bit easier. Will, we talk about the pros and cons of Quivr being built on the Salesforce platform quite a bit, right? A lot of pros. I think my favorite one is security and integrate, or maybe favorite two, security is and just the API and integration ability that Salesforce has. And another huge benefit of being built on Quivr, and I think you would agree with me, or being built on Salesforce, I'm sorry, is the fact that you can filter and query any set of data in the system that you want. Is that fair?
I think it's fair. And I think it's also gets a little bit into sort of like philosophically how we've built our data model, in that we're trying to provide a tool that you're going to be able to pull, I need to grab a chunk of clients out. And we want to give you a lot of different ways to do that. So some of it absolutely is just the power of Salesforce and how it works. Some of it also is that like we're organizing data in a way that facilitates being able to then use those filters in a meaningful way, as opposed to like, I can't get to any of my data because it's all in this giant text field, or, it's all in this, it's just a note on a household, and all of the notes kind of run together. And so like, how do I find the ones that I want? Like, some of it is just our data model too.
Yeah. And a common theme that I tell all new users, existing users, people that like me, people that don't like me, is I'm only going to enter data into my system if it's going to benefit me in some form or fashion in the future. Maybe that's for me in meeting prep, so I want to have data clean and organized. Maybe it's for my regulator. I have to have specific KYC, AML stuff inside of the system. But also, a lot of the things in the system are just to help us do normal course of business. So for example, like we talk about how on January 1st, I have like 900 or 1,000 tasks and workflows get kicked off. Well, that doesn't just happen. That is because we have specific items inside of our data that allow us to do that. So when we look at the ability to filter and we look at the ability to, have clean data and see whatever types of data we want, I mean, it all goes back to the whiteboarding, right? What are you trying to accomplish? Simple as that. What are you trying to accomplish? Well, I want to run a workflow on January 1st for all of my backdoor Roth IRA contributors. Well, perfect. We just identified data that we need in our system.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note that like there's a couple different ways to attack this process. And so like sometimes you'll see us using a date field. And the reason we use a date field is like, you have a great example where a life insurance policy was, getting close to maturity, and that's not something you want to miss, or a client's getting close to a certain age, and that's not something you want to miss. So you can like use a date field to identify those clients. When it's something like, service oriented, like I'm doing a backdoor Roth, or I'm doing a conversion, or I've got clients that do QCDs, like you need to be able to identify that. And it's not necessarily a date driven thing. You have to come up with a different way to trigger that, trigger those people to be included with that filter. And so I think there's a little bit of like, we talk about whiteboarding a lot, but this is kind of a similar thing where you have to design, how am I going to pick those people up? Like, how am I going to sort this bucket to include them, or also importantly, exclude them from particular process? And there's a couple different ways to do it, which I think is, to me, that's one of the real big benefits of Quivr is it doesn't, you're not limited in terms of one particular track. But I also think that's one of the challenges is that we get, users that are like, there's too many options. I don't know how to do this. Like I'm getting myself confused. And so that I think it's sort of nice to give a little bit of feedback to people on, how would you do this? How do you go about this? Where do you start?
Yeah, so you're right. We do have a lot of different ways that a lot of different places that you can enter data. And you'll notice in your system that there's a ton of pick lists, right? Service offering, client agreements, tags, value add participation. There's a ton of pick lists. And plus, you can create your own, which I love. And the reason we have more than one is because if you think about Quivr, right, we're a piece of software that is being built for the masses. And if you're building things for the masses, you need to be able to have most needs. So to be very honest with you, I don't use every pick list in the system. Service offerings, I don't use that. I don't need that. All of my clients more or less get the same service. But what I do is I use tags and value add participation, those two pick lists, religiously. Because, right, if I'm trying to run a backdoor Roth IRA contribution process or automation on the first of the year, I need to have backdoor Roth IRA contribution as a tag somewhere in the system so that on January 1st, it picks up, boom, the Halperts, right, Jim is a backdoor Roth IRA contributor, kick that off. right? So yes, we have a bunch of different places that you can enter the data, right? Will, you brought it up too, so I can do it again. The whiteboard. What are the services you're offering your clients? And it's just as simple as saying, like, these are the 17 things I want to do for my clients. IRA, Roth IRA, backdoor IRA contributions, Roth conversions, Medicare, ACA enrollment, like all of these different things. Just build a bunch of tags. It's actually really simple. And if you figure out a point in time where you need to expand your filtration, okay, we'll work on that in the future, right? Future you will know how to do that. But now why do we want to have our data clean? The next thing I want to talk about, Will, is the ways that you can use this data. So we want to get our data in there. I want to know who my Roth IRA contributors are, but why, right? Will, think about all of the places that we can use that data to help ourselves.
Yeah, and this is, I think, one of the hardest things. I mean, I've worked at so many firms where they, excuse me, fight against like the natural inclination to screw up your data and get it dirty again. You really do have to be sort of fastidious about, we apply this tag, we keep this going the same way. And that's sort of a like, that's an interesting dialectic too, because you've got like, we've got a ton of tags in the system that makes it harder, or we do this particular thing for all of our planning clients. So we don't need a tag. We're just going to run it off of if you're a planning client, you get this. This is just the way it is. So like you're always kind of going back and forth, and it has to be something where you design it in a way that you're not flooding the system with too much data, but you're also being mindful of like, okay, again, like on the whiteboard, if this is something I'm doing for everybody, then I don't need a tag. I can just do it off of,
Client.
the type of client that we do, or I could do it off of the fact that they're a planning client and an investment management client instead of just an investment management client. Like if there's stuff that you can organize that way.
Segmentation is a super common one there. We want to do all of this for, our A or platinum clients.
Yeah. And then what that helps with is this second point, which is to, data integrity, the cleanliness of the data, where if you're simplifying it down and making it easy to keep it clean because there's not so many permutations, that's going to help you in the long run. Now, there's some things you can't escape. Not every client's going to do Roth conversions, right? Not every client's going to be delaying Social Security or taking it early or, whatever it might be. There is going to be some of that variation that expands. But if you can try and fight that and just resist the temptation to make every last thing a tag, it is going to make it easier. And then also if you can like run some reports and just like, have people kind of go back through and check it. And if you're lucky enough to work in a firm that has multiple individuals and teams, getting someone else's eyes on it too can be really powerful as a way to just make sure your data is clean.
For sure, for sure. And this is also like, we're going to talk about office hours, right? Because this is obviously office hours podcast and YouTube video. But if you do that whiteboard and you don't know where to start, like bring it to us. Put it, and now I know a lot of you are like not actually going to write on a whiteboard. I know I'm the weird one. Put it in Excel, however you want to do it. But if you bring it to us, I will promise you we have an opinion on how you could enter that data to help yourselves. Because once you get that data in there, you can run reports on queries. You can run on this data. You can run automations on this data. You can see list views. You can send mass emails on this data, right? For example, like I told the story, how many years ago did Washington have that rule about long-term care? Well, I wanted to send a mass email to all of my clients who lived in Washington to let them know what was going on with long-term care. And because I have, and think about it, all I had was client and state. That's it. That's it. And I was able to send a mass email to all of my clients in Washington, right? Like little things like that. The uses are borderline endless. But that's a wrap. Good stuff as always today, Will. A little more philosophical as always, but I like the philosophical ones. And I think you do too. But if you're stuck, you're not sure how to implement this, what we have found is usually we just nudge you in a specific or the correct direction. You're able to get off and running, and then this filtration and this cleanliness of data. Honestly, it gets addicting. So come hang out with us on Wednesdays where we can help you with similar items. If you're not a Quivr user, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes, but remember, it's not too late. Come schedule a demo. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with Will, and let's see what Quivr can do for you.